Hello, my name is Kelly Rice. I'm staff attorney for Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services. I'd like to welcome you to the State Rehabilitation Council. This video will inform you about the legislation and regulations that guide your work as an SRC member. You will learn about your role providing input and feedback to IVRS. Your views and opinions will help shape policies and practices of the agency, as well as services and outcomes for persons with disabilities. The birth of the modern vocational rehabilitation system and service era began in 1973 with passage on the federal level of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. The Act prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability in programs conducted by federal agencies, in programs receiving federal funding, in federal employment, and in the employment practices of federal contractors. The 1998 amendments to the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 changed the State Rehabilitation Advisory Council to the State Rehabilitation Council. The intent of removing advisory was to emphasize the partnership role of the SRC with the state VR agency. Section 105 of the Act establishes the SRC and defines its composition and functions. Your appointment to the SRC came from the governor. Members to the SRC must be appointed by the governor. The governor is required to select members after soliciting recommendations from representatives of organizations representing a broad range of individuals with disabilities and organizations serving persons with disabilities. Iowa law requires that boards and commissions, such as the SRC, be balanced in terms of members' gender, political party, geography, and other factors. The governor must also consider the extent to which minority populations are represented on the SRC. Each member serves a 3-year term. A member may serve for no more than 2 consecutive full terms. Vacancies on the SRC are filled in the same manner as the original selection, by appointment of the governor. The conflict of interest rule prohibits a member from casting a vote on any matter that would provide direct financial benefit to the member or the member's organization, or otherwise would give the appearance of a conflict of interest. The SRC is a consumer-controlled council. That is, the SRC is composed of a majority of persons with physical or mental impairments that substantially limit major life activities. The SRC must contain representatives with a broad range of disabilities and include family members, advocates, or other representatives of individuals with mental impairments. The SRC must be composed of at least 15 members from a variety of places. There must be at least 1 member from the statewide Independent Living Council, at least 1 member from a parent training and information center, at least 1 member from the Client Assistance Program, at least 1 qualified vocational rehabilitation counselor from the agency who serves as an ex officio non-voting member. There must be at least 1 representative of community rehabilitation program service providers. There must be 4 representatives from business, industry, and labor. There must be representatives of disability groups. There must be representatives of current or former applicants for or recipients of vocational rehabilitation services. There must be a representative of the state educational agency responsible for the public education of students with disabilities. There must be at least 1 representative from the State Workforce Investment Board. And finally, the director of the agency, our administrator David Mitchell, is an ex officio non-voting member of the council. The officers of the SRC are the chairperson and the vice chairperson. The officers must be selected by the SRC from among the voting members, meaning that the qualified vocational rehabilitation counselor and David would not vote on the officers. At the SRC's 4th quarter meeting held between April and June, the nominating committee, which is comprised of volunteers, presents a slate of candidates for chairperson and vice chairperson. Nominations may also be made from the floor. New officers take their new positions effective July 1st. Terms of office are for 1 year with a 2-year limit. New members and officers are seated at the 1st quarter meeting, which is held between July and September. The SRC has several functions. Among other things, the SRC is required to review, analyze, and advise IVRS regarding the performance of IVRS's responsibilities. The SRC, in partnership with IVRS, develops, agrees to, and reviews IVRS's state goals and priorities and evaluates the effectiveness of the VR program and submits reports of this progress to the U.S. Secretary of Education. In addition, the SRC advises IVRS regarding activities carried out under the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 as amended, and assists in the preparation of the VR services portion of the Unified or Combined State Plan and amendments to the plan. The SRC conducts a review and analysis of the effectiveness of and consumer satisfaction with the functions of IVRS, the VR services provided, and the employment outcomes achieved by eligible individuals receiving services. The SRC also prepares and submits to the Governor and to the U.S. Secretary of Education an annual report on the status of VR programs operated within the state. To avoid duplication of efforts and enhance the number of individuals served, the SRC is to coordinate its activities with the activities of other councils in the state. The SRC also provides for coordination and the establishment of working relationships between IVRS and the statewide Independent Living Council and Centers for Independent Living within the state. Finally, the SRC provides other comparable functions as the council determines to be appropriate that are similar to the other functions performed by the council. The SRC meets 4 times per year. Meetings are held in the Des Moines IVRS offices. Meetings are held on a quarterly basis based on the state fiscal year, which runs from July 1 through June 30th. New members seated on the council are seated in the first quarter meeting, which is held July through September. Officers assume their positions July 1st. According to the law, SRC meetings must be open and accessible to the public. Iowa's Open Meetings Law applies to SRC meetings. The law mandates that meetings of governmental boards and commissions generally be open to the public. Iowa's Open Meetings Law, Iowa Code Chapter 21, applies to SRC meetings. The purpose of our Open Meetings Law, as it applies to the SRC, is to assure, through a requirement of open meetings of governmental bodies, that the basis and rationale of governmental decisions, as well as those decisions themselves, are easily accessible to the people. The law does permit the SRC to go into executive or closed session, but only for very limited reasons, for example, to discuss pending litigation or a personnel matter. The Open Meetings Law prohibits a quorum of members from meeting outside the public process for meetings. Purely social gatherings are not a meeting under the Open Meetings Law, but members need to make sure that they do not use such get-togethers to discuss SRC business. Nor can email be used to conduct official business with a quorum. The SRC has 2 standing committees, the Outreach Committee and the VR Service Delivery Committee. SRC members are asked to serve on one of the 2 committees. Each committee selects its own chairperson. Committee meetings are typically held 1 hour before the quarterly meetings. IVRS staff are assigned to each committee to provide support and assistance. Ad hoc committees are allowed and may be appointed by the SRC chairperson upon request of a member or recommendation of a member. There shall be a predetermined purpose and length of time for each ad hoc committee. For more information on the SRC committees, please view the videos for each of the 2 committees. Thank you for your time.